I received a great comment yesterday on yesterday's video in the form of a question. And I'll start off with it. And I said I was going to make a video about it because it's such a great topic. And I think it does apply to a lot of people. So I'm going to read the question first, and then I'll start to comment on it. And KTI wrote, "Hi Neil, I suppose there have been days in your PRI journey during which you were obsessed with attaining more progress, better left stance, more left diaphragm, more right side inhibition. Perhaps you could share your thoughts in a video on avoiding an unhealthy degree of PRI commitment in case you can relate." So, I actually thought about that question quite a bit yesterday and this morning. And so there's a lot of different ways I can address this issue. But let me just start with the premise of the question with more progress. In terms of more progress in attaining better left stance, more left diaphragm, more right side inhibition. There are no degrees of better left stance, better left diaphragm, and better right side inhibition. You're either doing it or you're not. Okay, so you can't get better left ZOA. You either have it or you don't. You can't get better left stance. You either have it or you don't. It's an all or nothing situation. And by default, if you have left stance, that right side will be inhibited. Now, on the other hand, maybe you can never completely inhibit fully the right side, which then would mean you'll never have full, complete left stance. But from my experience, that's not necessarily the case. You are going to have both. You can achieve both. There's very few people who probably can't achieve both. But let's say people under the age of 60, because there is an age issue, and some people who are considerably older, maybe that's not what they need. So there's always going to be variables. However, most people can achieve both of those, complete left stance and complete right side inhibition, and complete left diaphragm, left ZOA, because they're saying the same thing. You have them or you don't have them. So if you have left stance, left diaphragm working, then the right side will be inhibited. You may not maintain it, and you will not maintain it 100% of the time through your life because there's stress in life, but it doesn't mean you can't get it back. So I was never obsessed with making, progress, yes, but not with better left stance or better left diaphragm or more right side inhibition. I knew that I hadn't yet achieved it, period. And I always thought that there was more available to me, but I wasn't trying to get it better. I was just trying to achieve it. And every time I did make progress, in a sense, I felt my cranium shift and my tinnitus, the ringing in my ears, lowered, and my body felt better. But again, I'm kind of playing with the words here, and I know what this individual meant, but I just want to get it across that it's an all or nothing proposition. You either have it or you don't. But even if you don't have it fully, it doesn't mean that you can't feel considerably better. So I'm hoping that will make sense. Okay, moving on. Now, the idea of obsession, like a PRI obsession. Now, that obsession can be part of life, just like you can have obsession about any other experience in life that interests you, any other subject in life that interests you. It's good to have intense interest in a subject. It keeps your mind occupied. It keeps you working towards something. People who are unhappy generally are not working towards something. Just like our brain expects us to move forward towards a goal, towards something. Our mind has to be working on moving towards something, towards a goal. Otherwise, you're stuck in place and you're not progressing in life, and you're going to be not happy, most likely. It's that search for more, which is a double-edged sword, but to gain mastery with a subject, is a good thing, as long as it's not interfering with your ability to be happy. My constant search for mastery in dancing, in PRI, these are the things that do make me, that process is what makes me happy. Someone else may say, you're obsessed. That must be a bad thing if I'm obsessed. But my obsession is a good thing because I'm not trying to get a goal out of it. It's the process that makes me happy, not the outcome, not the perceived outcome. Even if I mastered it, what would that even mean? What would it lead to? It's like, I had a friend who, he was so interested in getting better and better and better at dancing. He wanted to be the best. And I kept warning him, when you get to that level of mastery, you're going to look around at top of that mountain and realize, oh, there's no one up here with me. So the problem is you strive to get better and better and better and better, but then you have less and less and less dance partners because they're not at your level. And to be honest, and I'm talking about salsa, and when you're at a certain level and you have to dance down to the level of your partners, it kind of takes the fun away because it becomes work, because you have to keep that person on beat. It's just less fun, but it's just part of the process. So, and even in PRI, as you take more and more seminars and your consciousness changes, and you see things from a completely different perspective than 80% of the people who are taking PRI seminars because they still think it's about the muscles and biomechanics. Well, you can't really have great conversations anymore. There's only a few people. That's why I have a few people in my life who understand what I'm talking about when it comes to PRI, because most people who are taking PRI seminars are still generally thinking of it as a biomechanical issue. I'm quite confident in what I'm telling you, how to view this, that I've mentioned in most of my videos, that it's not a biomechanical issue. It's not a muscle issue. It's a much broader issue. There's only a couple people who see it the same way I see it, and I understand. And the good thing is the founder is one of them, because we've had many conversations about it. So I'm very confident in the way I'm explaining things. And I can't see it any other way. In life, I just had this text conversation with someone who's doing well. He's in the industry, and he mentioned about being authentic. That he realizes you have to be authentic. And I said, absolutely, you have to be authentic. There's no other way to be. Nothing else will bring lasting contentedness or happiness. And the problem, though, with authentic, and I said my problem was not having to be authentic. My problem was being okay with that authenticity. So just a short story. I remember a couple of years ago, probably 10 years ago, I was watching a YouTube video that was filmed during a class, a lecture at Yale University. I was not at Yale, but I was watching the video, and the video was on the origins of early Christianity, the history, okay, the history of the origins of early Christianity. That's what I do for fun. I was watching that video, not because I had to, because I was going to college and I had to take an elective, and that's the one I chose. I was watching that for fun because I'm really interested in the topic, because I'm interested in the history and development of the entire world of I would say the Western world, but it's not just the Western world. It obviously, Christianity has the origins of Christianity spread throughout the world in many different ways. It's not for religious reasons that I'm interested. I'm simply interested in the origins and the history of the religion itself and its impact upon different countries, different areas of the world. But regardless, that's what I do for fun. Most people are not doing that for fun. And the professor, the actual video is about St. Augustine, but the professor in the beginning said, when did you, and he's he's talking to Yale students, or who are, probably many of them realized they were different, but he said, at what point did you realize you were different? And that was a great question, because that was something I always felt, but I wasn't comfortable with because people kept saying, you need to be a different way. You're not like these other people. And that was what I struggled with, that I realized I did not think the same way that the majority of people were thinking. I wasn't interested in the same things that my friends were interested in. And because of that, it made my ability to connect with people less good. I connect with people on intellectual levels, and I'm okay with that. Now I am. I'm simply not interested in TV and the Kardashians and pop. I like music, and connecting with people on music is a great thing. But I always have a hard time getting past that small talk thing. So I'm really good one-on-one with people. I'm not great in large groups because I'm just going to be bored by the conversation. I'm just going to kind of mentally check out and wish I was somewhere else. And so that's kind of how I am. And so, there's a certain type of pain in being different. When you realize you're different and it makes it difficult for you to connect with others, you feel kind of alienated and alone, and people don't understand you, and they think you're weird, and they look at you strange. You're like, why are you interested in that? But here's the real pain. There is pain in feeling like you're different, but the real pain is when you are trapped in a box that you don't want to be in. So if you think that because everyone says this is what you should be doing, or society says you should do this for a happy life, and yet all the things that society or family or friends say that you should do for a happy life are leading you further away from happiness. That's where the pain comes in. And then if you realize the less you do what society or your family or your friends say you should do, and the more you do something that makes you feel good, and the happier you are, then you have this decision to make. Do you go with how you feel, which is you're feeling happier because you're doing something that maybe you were meant to do, or you're further away from the things that you don't like doing? Or do you kind of go back into that box because the family's putting pressure on you, or your culture's putting pressure on you, or whatever, someone's putting pressure on you to go back into that box because that's what you should be doing? That's where the pain occurs. When you know you should be over here, but everyone else and your own mind and the stories that you're creating in your mind and you're believing keep telling you to stay here. And this is where that inner conflict occurs. I went this way in my mid-20s. I couldn't deny I was miserable being over here. I found dancing, and I started to feel better over here. And so little by little, I just kind of went over to what was making me feel happy. And all of a sudden, yeah, my aches and pains got less. I can tell you that. I was still dealing with things, don't get me wrong, because I was still, at that point, I was stuck in a pattern. So that pattern had to be undone. But overall, my life happiness increased greatly. And that pain that I experienced because I knew I was different started to diminish, because I kind of went away from all those old things that I didn't like doing anyway. And so what I did was accept myself as being different, and I became okay with it because it was better. It made me feel better than when I was trying to fit myself into something I couldn't fit into. That box, 9 to 5, white collar life, misery. It was misery for me. Completely unpredictable schedule, not a normal paycheck, not 9 to 5, just being engaged in an activity, teaching dancing that was fulfilling. That was good. And that changed my life because I now no longer woke up in the morning hating life. I now no longer woke up in the morning saying, oh God, I don't want to go to work. No, none of that happened ever. I have never had another day like that since I was 28 years old, and that was a long time ago. So the pain in being different is not because you're different. The pain is being different when uh, when you recognize that difference and you're still doing something that doesn't put you in an environment where your difference is is prosperous, where your difference can be taken advantage of, where you can't utilize your difference in a positive way. I got very fortunate with postural restoration because I found a place, an organization, and a group of people who appreciate my difference, what makes me different from others. I'm not saying I'm smarter in any way. It's just my mind works in a certain way that people in PRI appreciate, whereas people in normal life are kind of like, I don't really understand him. It's kind of weird. Uh, so, you have to find the environment in which you will prosper. Unfortunately, many of us get stuck in environments that don't fit our personality, and thus we don't prosper, and thus we feel like we're wasting our life and we're incredibly unhappy. You have to go with how you are feeling. So I'm not obsessed with these subjects. Well, maybe I am, but they are a healthy obsession. They are what create that happiness. When it's taken away from me, like it was in COVID, I couldn't go to seminars anymore. I wasn't having these discussions that I love so much. And it made me, it really threw my body for a loop. Things were the past couple months from September to January were not very good for me. And I'm going to go into that more. But those things are not my obsession in a bad way. They don't take away from my happiness. They are my happiness. They put me into flow. So now for someone else, if PRI training is almost like when people train to look better, which I won't train people to do, then maybe that's unhealthy. But that's something they'll have to figure out. What is one person's obsession in a negative way, or in a positive? I'm sorry. What is one person's obsession in a positive way? Someone who is not them, that might be an obsession in a negative way. It depends on what you're looking for. There is no, yeah. So that would be my answer. If you're thinking of PRI training to get better in some way that it's going to lead to some type of promised land, well, that might be an unhealthy obsession. But if this activity of PRI and studying it is literally who you are, and it's what makes you happy, then it's a good thing. So hopefully you can make sense of that explanation.